miss me. I've been thinking of you. I've got something new just for you. I'm excited. Are you ready for story time? Tonight's story is entitled Charlie. Let's talk about Charlie. She lay in her bed beside her sleeping king. He looked so peaceful after she trained him with her oral lullaby, watching every breath, his beautiful brown skin, the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the faint snore that told her he was satisfied. Watching him, she replayed his reaction to her tongue dance on his dick. She grew restless. She wanted him, needed him inside of her. His big, beautiful, black dick, long, thick, curved like a banana, veiny and strong. She hungered for him. Her pussy began to throb. She tried to resist and return to sleep. Her pussy cried. She needed him, begged for him, giving in to her vagina's desires. She gently lifted the covers. There he was, in all his splendor, asleep, just like his owner. But she was about to wake him up. She looked at him. He lay still, ever so slowly. She eased under the cover, careful not to stir his sleep. Then she whispered, "Good morning, Charlie," and kissed him. Still flaccid, Charlie gave a slight jump. She smiled. Then she licked, allowing her tongue to slowly she sucked, the more he moaned. Oh shit, he moaned. She could hear his toes cracking as they curled, but he was still half asleep. She sucked more. He thought he was dreaming. When he was hard enough, she slowly slid down his powerful rod, accepting him into the innermost parts of her. She silently moaned and began riding him slowly. Every time she came back down, she could feel him touching parts of her that hadn't been touched. The ecstasy made her emotional. Quietly, she whispered her love, loyalty, and devotion to him with tears in her eyes. In a daze, she didn't realize he had awoken. Suddenly, he grabbed her hips and grinded hard and deep. At the same time, gently shushing her so she wouldn't scream. Whimpering in the darkness, she could see him deviously smiling at her. He winked. She smiled back. She rode and grinded harder, rubbing her clit until it swelled, creating a quiet storm inside of her. Faster, harder, deeper, she grinded, insatiably clawing the sheets for more. She loved his big dick in her pussy. As her motions intensified, Charlie grew even harder. She knew they were both approaching their climax. Chills grew in her body. Her legs began to tremble uncontrollably. She could hear him moaning. He was saying things she couldn't quite hear because she too was too far gone. Vaguely, in her stupor, she could hear him say, "Get up." She refused. She was right there. She couldn't stop. He was about to come could feel it. She could feel him coming deep inside, but she didn't stop. One last thrust, and she exploded too. Together they came. Her body quivered and convulsed. She moaned wildly as she was drained of all the emotions she'd been holding on to. He pulled her close to him and held her, then whispered in her ear, "I love you." She whispered back, "I love you too, Daddy. More than you can possibly imagine." She closed her eyes and was fast asleep in minutes. He kissed her head and fell asleep with her. Oh, what an enticing bedtime story. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope it excited you as much as it excited me. Thank you for tuning in again. Stay tuned. More story time with Lady Love coming very, very, very soon. Good night.